You wake up, you go to work, you get paid, you pay rent, you pay the car, you pay the phone. And then you look at your bank account and think, where did it go? And the worst part, you've been doing everything right. You're not blowing money at the casino. You're not buying designer clothes. You're just living. But somehow the number barely moves. Here's the truth. Nobody tells you when you're starting from zero. The first $10,000 is the hardest money you will ever accumulate. Not because you're bad with money. Not because you don't earn enough, but because of the cruel math of starting from nothing. Today, we're going to break that math wide open. Let's start here. Imagine you're standing at the bottom of a hill. Somewhere at the top of that hill is the number $10,000. Now, you're not lazy. You're pushing hard. Every extra shift. Every skipped lunch. Every no to the weekend trip. But the boulder barely moves. And that feeling, that grinding, soul-crushing feeling that your effort isn't translating into progress, that is not in your head. It is built into the math. Here is something most financial channels won't say this plainly. When you have no savings, your money does zero work for you. Every single dollar of progress you make is from your body, your time, your labor. You have $500 saved? Great. At 7% annual return, a generous stock market average that earns you $35 a year, that's about $2.91 a month. That is not a raise. That is not momentum. That is a rounding error. Here's what that actually means for you psychologically. Every single month, you are the engine. Your overtime, your side hustle, your sacrifices. 100% of your financial progress comes from you, not from money working for you. That is exhausting. And most people, most normal, intelligent, hardworking people, burn out right here, at between $0 and $5,000. Because they feel like they're running on a treadmill that isn't moving. But here's what they don't tell you. The treadmill is real, but it has a finish line. There's another cost nobody talks about. Let's call it the fear of zero tax. When your bank account has $200, $500, even $2,000 in it, you are not making decisions from a place of calm. You're making decisions from fear. That fear has a real financial cost. Here's what I mean. Person A has $2,000 saved. Car breaks down. Costs $800. They pay cash. They're stressed. But they survive. Person B has $0. Same car breakdown. They put it on a credit card at 24% interest. Now, a $800 repair becomes a $1,000 problem over the next year. And this is the part that keeps people trapped at zero. Every unexpected expense isn't just a setback. It's a reset. You save $400, car breaks, you're back at zero. You save $600, medical copay hits, you're back at zero. The math isn't just heartless. The math is punishing people who can least afford to be punished. And that is exactly why the journey from $0 to $10,000 feels like pushing a boulder through mud uphill in the rain, because it is. But once you reach the top of that hill, everything changes. Let's talk about what actually changes when you hit 5 figures. I don't mean the interest math. We'll get to that. I mean, what happens inside your head? Right now, if you're under $10,000, every dollar you look at, you're asking one question. Which bill does this go to? Money, at this stage, is a bill payer. It exists to cover what's already owed. ... It has no identity beyond survival. But here's what they don't tell you about crossing $10,000. Your relationship with money changes entirely. You stop looking at your savings account as a safety blanket. You start looking at it as an army. Every $1,000 you have saved is a soldier that works for you. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Without a break, without a complaint, without asking for overtime pay. That shift in thinking from money as protection to money as a weapon, that is the confidence pivot. And it is one of the most powerful psychological transformations a person can experience. Here's a concept I want you to really visualize. At $2,000 saved, you have a fence. It looks like protection. But one good storm and it's gone. Car breakdown, fence falls. Vet bill, fence falls. Hours cut at work, fence falls. But at $10,000, you don't have a fence. You have a moat. That moat creates something that money can't fully quantify. The ability to say no. No to the toxic job because you could survive 3 months without income. No. To the debt trap because you can pay the car repair in cash. No to the panic purchase, because you're not making decisions from desperation. And this is the safety net paradox. Most people think a safety net is about catching you when you fall. But the real power of the safety net is that it lets you jump. Want to start a side hustle? You can, because a slow month won't destroy you. Want to negotiate a raise? You can, because if they say no, you can afford to walk. Want to invest aggressively? You can, because your basic needs are covered. The $10,000 threshold isn't just security, it's freedom of action. Let's get concrete. Below $10,000, your financial decisions are almost entirely defensive. You're blocking punches, not throwing them. But once you cross that threshold, you start making offensive moves with your money. Here are 3 things that only become accessible or significantly safer once you have a financial base. 1. You can negotiate better deals. When you're broke, you accept whatever terms you're given. When you have cash, you negotiate. Dealers, landlords, service providers, they all treat you differently when you're not desperate. 2. You can avoid high interest traps. The single most reliable investment you can make is avoiding a 20 to 24% interest rate. That's a guaranteed 20% return, better than almost any stock. But you can only avoid it if you have money to cover emergencies. 3. You can access compounding at a meaningful scale. And this third one, this is where we need to slow down. Because this is where most people still don't understand what they're walking into. Okay, let's do the math that changes everything. And I'm warning you now, this math does not care about your feelings. It doesn't care how hard you've worked. It doesn't care how unfair the system is. The math is the math. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Scenario 1. You have $1,000 saved. You invested at 7% annual return, the historical stock market average. After 1 year, you've earned $70. It's not even a nice dinner out anymore. That is your money working for you, and it can barely cover a gas tank. Now, scenario 2, you have $10,000 saved, same 7% return. After 1 year, you've earned. That is a full month of groceries. That is a car payment. That is a utility bill, a phone bill, and a streaming service. But here's where the math gets truly ruthless. We're not just talking about 1 year. Let's look at 20 years. $1,000 invested at 7% for 20 years becomes approximately $3,870. $10,000 invested at 7% for 20 years becomes approximately $38,700. Same rate, same time. But one person starts with 10 times more and ends up with 10 times more. That's not magic. That's just what happens when you give compounding something real to work with. But here's what they don't tell you about that chart. The person who never hits $10,000 doesn't start investing nothing.
Ow.
They're often saving, just not consistently, just not enough, just getting wiped out every time an emergency hits. They're on the treadmill. The person who crosses $10,000, they stepped off the treadmill. Now momentum is working for them, not against them. Once you cross $10,000, the financial world literally changes shape around you. Opportunities that were invisible before suddenly appear. Let me give you 3 real examples. Number 1, bulk purchasing power. This sounds mundane. Just bear with me. When you have no savings, you buy things as you need them in small quantities, at retail price, whenever it's convenient and you have a paycheck. But with $10,000, you can buy in bulk. Household supplies, car maintenance products, even food staples. Studies consistently show that buying in bulk can save 15 to 30% on household goods. That's not exciting.
Oh.
But 25% savings on things you were buying anyway is a guaranteed return that beats most investment accounts. Number 2, high-yield savings and CD access. As of recent years, high-yield savings accounts and certificates of deposit have been offering 4 to 5% returns with essentially zero risk. But many of the best straight CDs and accounts have minimum deposits of $1,000, $5,000, or $10,000. If you have $500 in savings, you get 0.01% at a regular bank. If you have $10,000, you can access accounts paying 400 to 500 times more than that. That's not a marginal improvement. That is a different financial universe. Number 3, the confidence to invest in yourself. This one is harder to quantify, but it might be the most important. When you have $10,000 in the bank, you can take a $500 course to upgrade your skills without feeling like you're gambling with your survival. You can spend $300 on professional equipment for a side hustle. You can take 1 month with reduced hours to build something. Every one of those investments in yourself, made from a position of stability rather than desperation, has the potential to generate multiples of what you put in. But you can't make those bets when you're playing defense, and below $10,000, you're almost always playing defense. Here's the part most finance videos leave out. Reaching $10,000 is the milestone. But keeping $10,000 as your floor while building above it, that's the discipline. There's a trap waiting for almost everyone who hits 5 figures for the first time. It's called lifestyle creep. You hit $10,000, you feel good, you deserve it. So you upgrade the apartment, or get the nicer car payment, or start saying yes to every dinner out. And suddenly the $10,000 that took you 2 years to build erodes back to $6,000, then $4,000, then you're back on the treadmill. After you hit $10,000, you live like you're still at $2,000. Not forever, not as punishment, but long enough to make the $10,000 your permanent floor, and everything above it becomes your growth engine. The goal is not to feel rich at $10,000. The goal is to be rich at $60,000 by treating $10,000 the same way you treated $2,000. All right, let's get actionable, because I know some of you are watching this at $3,000, at $6,000, at $8,500, and you want to know, what do I actually do right now? Here's the exact framework. Step 1. If you're under $1,000, every dollar goes into a high-yield savings account. No stocks, no crypto, no side hustle investment. Your only job is to stop the bleeding. Stop the fear of zero tax from eating your progress. Step 2. If you're between $1,000 and $9,999, 80% of every dollar saved goes directly toward the $10,000 target. 20% goes into low-cost index funds, just to build the habit. You're not trying to get rich yet. You're trying to reach escape velocity. Step 3. The moment you hit $10,000, this is it. This is the moment. Here's exactly what you do. 1. Designate $5,000, $7,000 as your emergency fund. Park it in a high-yield savings account. Do not touch it. To take the remaining $3,000, $5,000, and put it into a diversified, low-cost index fund, like a total market ETF or S&P 500 fund. 3. From this point forward, every new dollar you save goes toward building above the floor. You're no longer saving to survive, you are now investing to compound. That is the difference. That's why $10,000 isn't just a number. It is the moment the boulder stops working against you. It starts working for you. Let's bring this full circle. From $0 to $10,000, every dollar of progress is 100% your effort. Your money is barely helping you. You are carrying the full weight. That is normal. That is physics. Keep pushing. When you cross 5 figures, something shifts in your psychology. You stop thinking like someone who is surviving money. You start thinking like someone who is deploying it. 7% on $1,000 is a coffee. 7% on $10,000 is a car payment. The math is heartless, but at $10,000, it finally starts being heartless in your favor. Lifestyle creep is the silent killer of first-generation wealth. Reach $10,000. Protect $10,000. Build above $10,000. Never let it become your ceiling. The secret threshold was never really about the $10,000. It's about what $10,000 represents. It's the proof, the first real, undeniable proof that you can delay gratification long enough to let a number grow. And once you know that about yourself, once you have the evidence that you can do this, next $10,000 doesn't feel like pushing a boulder uphill, it feels like momentum. If this video gave you something, share it with one person you know who's stuck on the treadmill. They may not have the words for what they're feeling, but you just watched a full explanation of exactly what they're going through and exactly how to get out. The link to our full playlist, The Wealth Rules That Change Everything, is right below this video. Start from the beginning. Watch it in order. Every video is a step up the hill. See you in the next one.